If manifesting a person feels impossible, then it's not usually about the person. It is about the relationship blueprint you've been unconsciously running for years. Let's talk about this. In this video, I am going to tell you why you may not have succeeded manifesting your person yet, even though you have tried everything. Make sure to watch this video because then you will understand what you can do, what you can look at in order to get into the flow, in order to manifest your person, and you will understand why it has been so hard. So the thing is, when you want to manifest a specific person, then those people are so important to us. We often put them on such a high pedestal and we feel like, oh my God, if this person is not in my life, I don't know how I could be happy. If I could be happy ever again, I need them to be happy. If you just recognize yourself in that, if you want them so much, if you're in pain, if they're not there, then nothing is wrong with you. That is actually quite, let's say, normal even, because romantic attachment can actually touch our survival wiring, bonding, safety, identity, and it's not just a desire. And because of that, our nervous system often goes into monitoring mode. Your nervous system wants to understand it, wants to resolve it. So you're not just wanting something, you're watching for it, you're checking reality, you're checking yourself, and you're checking them. Usually it is on Instagram or Facebook, or when was he last online on WhatsApp? Or if you have access to your person, of course, who are they looking at? Where are they smiling at? What are they doing? But unfortunately, that alone, it can destabilize the state that you're trying to occupy. You're either in the state of already having it, or you're not in the state of already having it. It's only those two options. But it is your state that manifests. Like, where are you most of the time? And when I say state, it is not that complicated. When you imagine you are being with them, in your SATs, the state akin to sleep, when you're visualizing or daydreaming or affirming or have inner dialogue, scripting, whatever your technique is. If you're doing it in a way that you're really into it, you're in the flow and you feel relaxed and maybe even at peace, then for your subconscious mind, it is there in that moment. Being in the state means that you constantly keep telling your subconscious mind you're already having it by, for example, doing things you would do if you were with them. By that, I don't, of course, mean that you jump them and hug them when you're not together. That could be not so good. But what else would you do? Would you have a tidy apartment because your spouse could come over any moment? Then do it now. Clean it up. If you would shave certain body parts, if you were in a relationship, do it now. Do things that would imply that you already are in this relationship. What would the person, the version of you do that already has what you desire? And you try to do some of those things. If some of those things you cannot do because you don't have the money or whatever, then you just imagine you're doing it. What would you think if you were in this relationship? Try to learn to think those thoughts. What would you feel? Come up with scenarios where you would feel that, like them hugging you. The more you can occupy that state, the better it is. But it's not a full-time job. It's not like you have to be in that state 24/7. Because even if you were in a relationship, you would think about other things too, right? You would get your job done. You have maybe other things that are important to deal with. You still do those. You still live your life. But what the version of you would not do when you were in a relationship is checking when were they online last time, wondering why they haven't reached out, talk to your best friend about why they haven't reached out yet. Stop all of those things you would not do if you were in this relationship, because again, either you are energetically in this relationship or you're not. Simple as that. So when you constantly check in what they're doing and telling yourself, but I have to be realistic about it, or you won't believe how many times I have heard that with clients. Yes, but I have to be realistic about it. Yes, when they're in front of you and you're not together yet, then of course you don't cross their boundaries, but in your mind, you don't have to be realistic. Being realistic often means being careful or being pessimistic, and then you cannot be surprised that you haven't manifested them yet, because that state, that alone destabilizes the state you're trying to occupy. You either are in the state or you're not. It's black and white. So manifestation actually works best when the assumption feels settled and normal. So you're not trying to get into the feeling of, oh my God, it's so amazing. Because when you already have your spouse for a while, you don't wake up every morning overflowing with joy. No, because it's already normal. So we want to get into a state of peace and not really excitement, exhilaration. But the problem is when we have this high pressure, like they're not there yet, I'm missing them, then that keeps that inner state reactive. And it's not that wanting love is wrong, absolutely not. But it's the urgency that pulls you out of the assumptions of having it and into vigilance. And vigilance is the signal it's not here yet. I don't have them yet. Where are they? They're not here yet. And if you fall into that state, you cannot manifest them because, again, you either are in the state or you're not. If you notice that you are more upset thinking about them, then you're not in the state. But if you're most of the time when you're thinking about them, it puts a smile on your face, you're at ease, you're relaxed, then you're in the state. And it's not about perfection. You don't have to be 100% great all the time. It is more about noticing when you fall out and learning to get back in. But then there's this deeper layer that people rarely talk about. But my channel is all about diving deep, so you better hit the bell, you subscribe, and check out my playlists because I love going deep where no one else goes. But here goes. So the relational assumptions that are not created with this specific person, they're pretty much ancient. But they were formed in your childhood through your caregivers, observing parental dynamics and emotional availability or lack of it when it comes to your parents. Then, of course, that is getting reinforced again and again and again through teenage crushes, the first heartbreaks, rejection, abandonment, the inconsistencies, or even idolization. And often, when it is about childhood, very often it is more mommy issues than daddy issues, what I found out. Because dad issues often lead more to career problems, the inner masculine within us. Whereas mommy issues, mommy is usually the first person we have this closest bond with because she nurtures us. Mom is usually the primary caregiver. So this is the first really attached bond. And if something is not that stable there, this is usually how our bonds form and then get mirrored back later on. But of course, if something happened with dad, like he passes or he's just not there, he doesn't take care of you, he just wasn't there, that of course can also create a wound of abandonment. But over the time, when we have this core wound and then it gets mirrored back throughout the crushes and all of that, what formed the image of masculinity or femininity, depending on who you are, gets mirrored back through the other people. So your current specific person, your current love interest, is, you could say, the 3D representation of your own inner divine feminine or masculine. That inner feminine or masculine energy. And that was then altered and changed a little bit or solidified by every, let's say, man, if you're a woman who's heterosexual, by every man you've met. That was set a little bit more and more and more in stone. Of course, sometimes things can come up. For example, I've had clients who told me, well, no person ever cheated except for the last guy. How come that topic came up all of a sudden? Well, that may have come up because of a self-worth issue. If we don't care about our own self-worth, if we put ourselves last, then that will get mirrored back, and it can get mirrored back in different things. For example, then in one person cheating, even though people before didn't cheat. So new things can come up to show us our blind spots. But over the time, this becomes an internal model of how relationships work, what love feels like, what to expect from men or women, and how safe intimacy is, and how available people are, and also what kind of role you play within this connection, your love relationship connections. And then by the time someone is manifesting in a specific person, then this internal image, it feels like reality and not a belief. But it is a belief that created the reality. So the belief always came first. It may not have been a conscious belief. And just as I explained earlier with the example of cheating, it can come in different ways. It's more about what feeling is coming. Is it the feeling of betrayal, the feeling of not being first? That can show up in new situations where the old feeling comes up. So even if you would affirm something new, this new person, the old blueprints that keeps replaying because it is familiar and it is emotionally charged. But there is something you can do about it. And the best thing I have found out in my now 20 years as a coach for myself, and also of course for many clients, is the revision technique. And you can check out my playlists. I have lots of videos on revision, but also I have my revision scripts for people who don't know how to revise, and those you could say are templates for many different situations, childhood situations, relationship situations, also of course money and job related, and other situations, I believe health. And those can be like a kind of templates that you can remodel. And in the beginning of the book, of course, I explain everything about revision. So you can check out my revision scripts. The link is in the description box below. And that can help you to revise your past and to actually literally rewire your brain and to get those assumptions out of your subconscious mind. And also, of course, it will affect your limbic system, your nervous system, and you will no longer fear of being, let's say, abandoned or betrayed, because for your subconscious mind it never happened. It happened for your real memory. You will not lose your real memory, but energetically it will no longer matter, and then the old story won't come up again because there is nothing there that can get mirrored. So you can check out the revision scripts. But that's not it. There is another reason why it is so damn hard to manifest a specific person. And that one you may have heard about. It is all about the self-concept mirroring. This is where some people may feel a little bit attacked, but it's actually just neutral mechanics. Your SP, your specific person, is reflecting how stable you are in yourself when it comes to love. And of course your self-worth. And if there's fear of loss or fear of abandonment, fear of not being chosen, then it doesn't mean that you're broken, but it means that the state is still active and it is getting mirrored back to you by the other person. And the attachment style matters because an anxious attachment style, for example, is wired to seek reassurance externally and not within themselves. But that can create oscillation. It can create hope and doubt, longing and panic, relief, and then the repeat of the cycle. And your specific person mirrors that instability by being inconsistent, distant, or even triggering by whatever they do, ghosting, etc. But at the same time, self-worth and self-love aren't just abstract ideas. They show up very concretely in how much you tolerate uncertainty and how much you collapse when there's silence and how quickly your mood depends on their behavior. And all of that gets reflected back because the relationship is acting as a mirror and not as a separate independent problem. I do have one more point for you, but before we get to the last point, I would like to point out that I also have my Manifesting 101 book that you also can get. Link is in the description box, where I give you several reasons. If I remember it right, oh my god, it was 18 reasons, the most common blocks that I have found in clients that didn't manifest a specific person. So if you want to know all of the 18 blocks and more, and how manifesting works in general, then of course you can get my manifesting guide, the guide for seekers who are ready to change their life. And in it I talk about the science of manifesting and of course the 18 most common blocks, why your person is not with you yet and why your manifestation didn't work. So if you want to know all of the 18 blocks and of course how to resolve it, then you can get my Manifesting 101 script book. It is an ebook. You find the link in the description box below. But now let's get back to the video and to the last point, why you haven't manifested them yet, and that is longing itself. Longing, it feels romantic and deep and soulful, but on a state level it is still identification with absence. I had many clients say, but what if I don't miss them anymore? Doesn't that mean that I don't love them anymore? No, absolutely not. Because why would you miss them when you do your visualization or whatever, you're in a dialogue that implies they're already there? You feed your subconscious mind with the information, I'm already in this relationship, I'm already there. And then the longing, it will get less and less and less. The longing means that in your subconscious mind, you're not there yet. As we said earlier, you either are in the state or you're not. And getting into the state, it does require practice. If you need more help with that, you can reach out for coaching. My contact information is in the description box below. So please don't think that you're doing anything wrong if you have been manifesting them for 2 weeks and you were not in the state. First of all, if you didn't do something like the revision or other techniques like Ho'oponopono on a regular basis, we're talking daily, maybe for a few months if you have had issues in the past with relationships. Because we need to rewire your brain. Manifesting is science. Manifesting means that something changes even with your physical body, with your physical brain, with your nervous system, your hormones. You will release stress hormones. You get more relaxed. That is not magic. Manifesting is not magic. It is reprogramming your subconscious mind. It does take a moment. Yes, you may easily manifest contact for some of you, but contact does not mean relationship, and relationship for sure does not mean happy, fulfilling, stable relationship where you're feeling respected, and that should be the goal, right? So we need to do the work, and it does take practice, and it may take a few months in order to really reprogram yourself. And I know there's like a million videos out there how to manifest your person in X days. It is scam. Trust me, yes, you can manifest contact in a few days, some of you depending on your situation, of course, but you cannot completely shift your state that fast. And I know there are coaches out there that tell you, yes, you can shift your state that fast. And I know it sounds contradicting, yes, it is right, but those coaches who teach that, guess what? They have been manifesting for years most of the time, or longer, many years, which means they have already shifted into believing, because of their experience, they can manifest anything fast, that it can show up fast for them. But they have done the work before, and now they're just trying to sell it. Oh my God, I had this epiphany. You just have to occupy the state. You don't have to clear stuff from the past. It is true in a way that if your faith is strong enough to shift timelines instantly, then yes, that happens. Just like placebo effect, it happens. Is that what happens for most people? No, it is not what happens for most people, because most people need to obtain the faith by doing the groundwork. I know it doesn't sound romantic, but that's how it is. So your subconscious doesn't hear poetry, it reads position. If the dominant inner experience is I miss, I'll wait, I hope, then the state you're occupying is I am without them. And that is why longing tends to reproduce more distance and more longing. And not because desire is bad, but because the identity is still anchored in lack. That's also why the shift isn't about stopping desire. It's about no longer needing the other person to regulate you or to fill something internally. As long as the void is within yourself, you will manifest more void, more absence. But if you do you, if you make sure that you're well, you get your other stuff in order, you treat yourself like the king or queen you are. And I'm not talking about narcissism. I'm not talking about egoism. We're still connected to other people and we still treat other people with respect, obviously. But take care of your own needs. If you want to feel loved, love yourself first. Because if you are happy and grateful with where you are in your life, you cannot imagine how gratefulness manifests the things you want. It just draws them into your life, including your specific person. So the moment the relationship is experienced as enhancement rather than just a completion of you, then your state changes and then they will come. Easy as that.